Hi. You can see I'm continuing the theme of a aloha shirt. And I'm just looking at them. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I've ironed a shirt. You probably wouldn't uh, been able to guess, would you? Look at this wrinkle, and all my aloha shirts have been in the closet for some time. I haven't had opportunity to bring them out, but I'm celebrating summer. I'm celebrating just all things tropical. Okay. And as you know, we've all been staying pretty close to the home front. I've actually grown tired of traveling the last few years. It just seems to be more and more difficult, much less speaking of security, cost. I have a very comfortable home. I'm very comfortable here. So I like to be in my environment. And I can control my environment to an extent, right? But traveling, less, you don't have much input of what you get. You can choose your hotel, but your experiences, the people you meet. Anyway, I kind of outgrew. I traveled a lot, and I kind of outgrew the need to travel. And I just picked up just before I started, my Tao Te Ching, my favorite, illustrated quite nicely. Just open another random page. Can't really see, but there's Chinese here and English here. Let's see if I can find a more colorful page. Well, anyway, maybe it's not that colorful. But it's interesting because the way I use this book, I've mentioned before, I just pick it up and let it open itself, and my message is always right there. Maybe it's as simple that every page, probably it's the case that every page would have a meaningful message, but somehow they seem more appropriate with this kind of random choice. And of course, nothing is random. Everything's patterned. It's patterned chaos. Just to throw a monkey wrench. Patterned chaos. Opposites aren't really opposites. They're just a continuation on the wheel or the sphere. The sphere is better. I like three-dimensional. Even mess around with fourth dimension sometimes. But anyway, those of you that are stuck in the home front, we still can't, basically we can't leave Taiwan without a great deal of hassle, testing, and then quarantining wherever we end up. But let me read to you what was in my Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. This is the sort of the informal, mythical, maybe, founder of Taoism. Probably was a combination of many people, just like I suspect Jesus Christ could have been a historical figure, but he could have been a combination of different characters. Who knows? If you're a believer, you might think that you know, but as I've said before, beliefs, in my opinion, are a fool's game because they just limit your imagination. It's restrictive. I believe this, and I don't believe that. And I started to say I believe in being open. Isn't that funny? I would prefer to be open to whatever comes my way. But let's look at what Lao Tzu has to say and see how it's relevant when I was talking about you might be feeling stir crazy, or without going anywhere, you can know the whole world. without even opening your window, you can know the ways of heaven. You see, the farther away you go, the less you know. The sage doesn't need to travel abroad. Why? Because he can still understand. He sees without needing to see. He never does anything, and yet it all happens. So appropriate. So we know, getting on to the gist of today. I've been spending 67 last videos talking about clarity. And I talked about how not to find it. First of all, it doesn't come, at least for me, it didn't come from silencing the mind. We talked about a progression. We talked about a progression of how that you can soften the mind. You can soften the sound. You can even let's get real. I can even quiet it. But I started by taming the mind, by giving it, not by ignoring it, not trying to conquer it, not trying to overcome it, but redefining its parameters, giving it a sense of relevance, a sense of being, a sense of purpose. And the purpose is to sort, file, store, and on a good day, locate on the hierarchy of information to knowledge, culminating in wisdom. And most importantly, probably, is being able to quickly discard the unnecessary. My mind at a glance can look at. And then the pile is not as, the pile that needs to be sorted is dealt with almost immediately. It's filtered down. Okay, so defining the parameters for my mind, giving it a sense of purpose. Say, okay, this is the job that you can do. Your job is not, or if you continue to think that your job, I'm talking to my mind now, if you continue to think, and that's what the mind can do, if you continue to think that you have any influence over any decision that I make, any of my processes that I make, literally anything in my life other than this assigned task, you're wasting all of our time. And it'll make a lot of noise, and this comes with the process of, as you learn to recognize your ego, this false sense of self that you've developed, and where it really comes from, input, parental, imagination, the mind itself will try to pigeonhole you, try to define you. When you're discarding the ego, the necessary step in your spiritual progression, when you're recognizing your ego for what it is. And again, I'll point out here, it's not about discarding your personality. No matter what, we retain a personality. And I believe that this personality somehow is reincarnates, is brought with you to the table. You don't start off with a carta blanca, a blank sheet. You bring your personality. I think that personality is what reincarnates. And of course, your karmic path, your karmic history, the reflections of the time you spent in Bardo, the space between passing and being born again, that time, that space, we're privy in that space to everything, to all of our past lives, to all of our accumulated actions and our reactions, and our obstacles and our debts to other souls. All these things are put into consideration as we choose. Yes, I said choose the mother. We choose our mother and our father, the vessels that bring us into the world. And then we forget immediately. But when you're in this state in between, you're not limited by your body, your mind. You would be overwhelmed. But you can take unlimited stimulus in this state. And sometimes it can be hundreds of years, probably thousands of years. Sometimes it can be relatively short, depending on your karmic debt, your karmic map, and also the other souls that you need to work with. That you have an ongoing relationship that either hasn't been resolved or is bearing fruit. Time of celebration, this togetherness. So I was born basically in a state of confusion. Maybe because I could entertain so many options. I can look at something and say, yeah, this has possibility, this is possible. It wasn't until my abiding awakening that I learned that to reconcile these so-called diametrically opposed conditions, to recognize the oneness, to pass beyond duality, to understand, to begin living the reality of non-duality. It's all one. It's all together in infinite completeness. Okay, so I admit to being, as long as I can remember, being confused. But one thing I wasn't confused about, I wanted to remember what I've forgotten. I wanted to discover the Buddha that lies, that is us. I wanted to discover, I wanted to unite, I wanted to be who I am. But otherwise, the confusion, and now I know all about the monkey mind, and most of the confusion I can lay at the feet of the monkey mind and intentionally. And I think from a very early age, somehow I had an innate understanding that it's probably better not to share my confusion with too many people because it might make me vulnerable to manipulation. And that's something that I understood from a very early age, is I didn't want to be manipulated. And instead I developed a very rebellious nature. To this day, as I sit and look into my iMac, I'm a rebel through and through. If anyone or anything, any institution, tells me I have to do something, one thing that you can count on is I'm not going to do it. And I've learned to protect myself. Again, I'm a Pisces, I'm a fish. We have two options, unless we're a shark, and I'm definitely not a shark. We have our piranha now. We have two options: to blend into the group, and I'm never like groups, or to hide in the seaweed. And I've always hidden in the seaweed. And then, even if we're caught, we're slippery little buggers, aren't we? Yeah. So I learned to be elusive. I never really said yes, and I never really said no. Only my first wife paid enough attention to bust me on that. She'd say, "You never say yes, you never say no." I say, "Really? That's interesting." And then she, you did it again. But she more or less gave up and left for, I hope, greener pastures. God bless her. I hope she left me for a better life. A life better suited to her karmic path. For her soul progress. It wasn't me. I wasn't the one. Maybe there was something, who knows. That's a topic for another day. Why we got together. What did I need to reconcile? What did I need to deal with? And I have some inklings after 33 years. 33 years between my marriages, my two marriages. From divorced at 33, remarried at 66. So this confusion, of course, at 33, coincides with my divorce, when I had time to really concentrate. When I was a young man, between 0 and, well, my son was born at 27. So basically from 0 to 27, I was concentrating on my meditative path, on my reuniting, on my recognition, on my remembering, on my journey. And then from the next 6 years, I had a different focus. I had to focus on, I had a child. I had to focus on what people might say reality. Get a job, go to work. Not a lot of time for meditation, for soul searching. But then again, 33 till today. So really, what is that? 6 years. 6 years to do life that most people spend their whole life doing, having a goal, trying to work, trying to make money. Everything else I never tried. The world brought it to me, but somehow with the responsibility, I thought, well, now it's time. I bought into the program. Now it's time for me to make it happen. Just do it. Make it happen. Yeah, like that worked out real well. Yeah. But anyway, we're going back to this confusion. Never left. So started at 33, Renzai Zen, basically up until 66, the next 33 years. 33 is my number, I don't know. But the next 33 years, I had a pretty rigorous, disciplined, Rinzai Zen practice. With the goal, I wasn't, it's interesting that it wasn't about uniting. It wasn't about recognizing my oneness, my wholeness. It was about becoming clear. And I misunderstood, I'm sure I misunderstood, that clarity was the reward for finally conquering your mind, silencing your mind. Well, maybe I'm a slow study, but after 33 years, I finally gave up. I'm going to live. I'm going to relax. I'm not going to sit in such a rigid, full lotus. I'm going to have some concessions to the aging of my physical vessel. I'm going to sit comfortably. I'm going to relax. I'm going to, don't worry, be happy. But clarity, I just thought, well, if it really truly lies in silencing the mind, conquering the mind, it's not going to be something that I'll experience in this lifetime. Because my mind was the constant. Everything else changed, but the nature of the mind, my mind never changed. Never will. Until it takes that rest. Its change will be very sudden. The electricity, its power will just unplug. Boom. I will just drop dead and my mind will die with me. While, as I mentioned, I believe that it's been my experience that the personality is part of what continues. So 6 weeks ago, 3 months, I guess it's been, I revisited clarity. All of a sudden I thought, I didn't pursue it. It just came to me, okay, in my meditations about clarity. And I had to start learning. I already knew how not to get it or why I couldn't get it, I thought. But did I understand clarity? And then the next little step was I wanted to see clearly. And I learned it's not about seeing. I wanted to think clearly. And I learned that it's not about thinking clearly. This was such an intrinsic part that I recognized pretty easily that I wanted to see clearly. But I didn't recognize what it was really hungry for, what it was really searching for, was to think clearly, to the point that I had to, I forgot the most important part. Okay, so recently, meditations have been long and really good. And I just got an inkling that I'm on the cusp of understanding what clarity is, what clarity means. And I understood that it's not something that can be achieved. Just as equanimity was given to me post-awakening, post-permanent awakening, post-abiding awakening. Once I got my feet back underneath me and had some maturity, once I became more mature in my Buddhahood, equanimity was gifted to me. And these gifts, once gifted, can't be taken away. So I said, oh, equanimity is pretty damn cool. And I've been in this state for long enough to know that it's solid. Of course there's distractions. Of course the world will reach in and get me briefly. But I can recover quickly. And then I go through a process of recognizing and forgiveness. This is kind of my evening, my meditation before I sleep, kind of to evaluate my day. See where I need work. Commit to working on it. And ending it with a kind of a hug, a forgiveness. A forgiveness for having a temporary setback or shortcoming. Just move on so the next morning I wake up, the next golden dawn. When you first open your eyes, when the sun first comes up, which I talked about earlier, being in this constant state of golden dawn. Every moment has the potential to be a golden dawn. From awakening, you're waking up in the morning, to seeing the sun come up, to living life. You can understand living life in the sense of golden dawns. Every moment is a golden opportunity. Maybe as simple as just an opportunity to take the next breath. But really, when you get down to it, there's nothing much more important to our physical self than taking that next breath. So then I had this sense of golden dawn, that to really appreciate, to bask in the golden aura, the protection of the golden aura, to bask in this with the reassurance that the moments will blend and the commonality will be, things will change moment to moment, but the commonality will be the golden dawn, the state that I'm receiving each moment. So I thought, well, that's nice, to say the least. I appreciate that. That's certainly a worthwhile, another gift. But this moment by moment said, okay, there's more coming. I can taste it, tip of my tongue. I can taste it. And first I had to go through the process of what clarity wasn't. And I'm sure I wrote down, confusion is not the opposite of clarity. And I knew at the moment, I didn't write it down. So what is the opposite of clarity? I'm working on that. And maybe that's part of the process. It will help me to refine my search for the all-elusive clarity. So this golden dawn, which in and of itself is such a gift, a beautiful, I'm so blessed, I'm so grateful to have this gift. So this gift was mine after I started determining what clarity wasn't. Maybe it's the process of elimination. And again, I wrote down that confusion is not the opposite of clarity, which most of us would think it is. But what is the opposite of clarity? I'm not clear. And I think I had it, and I can't access it. But if it's important, I'll have it again. That's something I'm certain of. Never know when it'll be gifted to me. But then I had a little bit of a breakthrough. I think this golden dawn, part of this golden dawn is accepting of moment by moment the golden opportunity, the protection of the moment and what it can bring to you. And the little taste I was given is about hierarchies of importance. Hierarchy from top to bottom. How to know what's important and lesser importance and lesser importance and lesser. The hierarchy. And that was a little taste. So, well, here's a hint about what clarity may be about. No absolutes, no promises. Clarity may be about determining the hierarchy of importance. Meaning to evaluate. Because I'm like, I hear everybody telling me, there's one thing that people are willing to tell you, more than happy to tell you, is what's important. And probably the other shoe drops, what's not important. And as I've been learning for all these years, if I don't know, why should I take a cue from the clueless? My cue is just as good as any of the clueness that permeates, that surrounds us. So here we are. That's my first inkling of what clarity may be, what clarity may mean, what's important.